Hey folks, E King once again, and in this video we're going to talk about more cops getting busted for being racist and targeting specific people out on the highway and giving them tickets. But before we get into that, I want to take a second and touch on some of the comments that are being posted on the last cop video I did that's titled White Female Racist Cop. And if you haven't checked out that video and you want to check out that video, I have a link in the description below, so you can go check that video out. But in the comments, first I want to thank all of those that have engaged in a positive dialogue. You've given a bunch of great feedback, and I appreciate that. And thank you for it. Please keep them coming. Now, for the trolls that are out there, well, we know who you are. You know who you are. Trolls are going to be trolls. But for those of you that are out there intentionally trying to incite something by throwing racial slurs at myself or others that are commenting out there, and because this video or my other videos are making you feel some type of way, I want to just give you a little bit of a background about myself, okay? I have a background in criminal justice. Actually have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I worked as a military policeman for several years. Was part of the EPW unit that worked out in Gitmo, and also have a little bit of a background in military intelligence. And then after the military, then I went on and pursued a career in bail bonds and bounty hunting. And in fact, I have taught several people over the better part of 20 years on how to become successful at bail bonds and bounty hunting. And that's not for the scope of this topic, but I did want to point that out. In fact, when I used to bond people out of jail, and you know, when you're dealing with people that are getting out of jail, sometimes you get the people that think they've got to hustle and they can hustle and get over on everybody. Now, mind you, I told you I just have a background in military intelligence and law enforcement, okay? And every once in a while you get people out of jail and they think they're going to get over and give you wrong addresses or give you fake addresses and give you fake phone numbers, so on and so forth. And they think that they're going to do that because they ain't going to go to court and they're going to run from us. But one of the things I used to tell everybody, you know, when I got them out, was, hey, you have to call me every Friday. And if you don't call me by 1 o'clock p.m., you're going to be in jail by 1:30. Okay? If you live on this planet because you think you're going to run and hide from me, I'll tell you this. If you live on this planet, I will find you. And if you don't live on this planet, I'll find you anyway. And because I used to say that and deal with people like that, I can tell you that I went from 0 to 3.2 million in less than 9 months. In bail bonds, all right. Out of those sales, I only paid off one bond, all right, and that was a $3,000 bond. So that's like a 0.001% loss ratio. And it wasn't because I couldn't find that person. It's because it was just more cost effective for me to pay the bond off than it was to go and pick that person up and bring them back. Okay. Now, why am I saying all that? I say all that to say this. A lot of times, especially on Facebook, you can see people that get to saying a bunch of stuff that if you wouldn't say it to me in church or a dark alley, I don't understand why they get on Facebook and get on social media and they get this what I call social media courage. So just keep in mind, if you live on this planet, I can find you. And if you don't live on this planet, I'll find you anyway. All right, enough said about that. Moving right along, this first video that we're going to see, actually it's not a video, it's some news clippings that I have found on the internet, and it's about a couple of guys, couple of sheriff deputies in Georgia, of all places, that have been fired for some racial comments. So let's go ahead and check this out right now. Okay, so here is the report that is in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This is dated, as you can see here, Tuesday, October 4th. And now, just to bear in mind, this guy actually got fired. This is the guy right here. Actually got fired back in July. But for some reason, it's just now taken that long to come to surface and come to the light as to what he was doing and what was going on in this police department. So as we can see here, it was not only him, he engaged in this racist behavior with another buddy of his who was also one of the sheriff's deputies. Okay, they worked in the special traffics unit, and they patrolled the I-95 in South Georgia. Okay, the two officers sent offensive jokes back and forth through Facebook messages of all things. And I saw it on a video clip about this incident and read it in a couple of other clips on the internet, that how this all really came to light is, for some reason, this guy's supervisor had to go through his computer. One of the, I don't know if it was his desktop or laptop or whatever, but for some reason, the supervisor was going through this guy's laptop computer and then saw that they were exchanging these messages back and forth on Facebook. So, I mean, kudos to that supervisor there, because he could have just looked the other way, smacked him on the wrist, and said, "Hey, don't do it, don't do this again." But instead, he actually took the appropriate action. So, good looking out for you, Mr. Supervisor, whoever you are. So let's just scroll down a little bit more and check this out. One of the other things, I think this is one of the things right here that is most upsetting. Okay, is that they had a picture of Martin Luther King on. This is all on Facebook now, and then they put this quote next to Martin Luther King: "I have a dream that one day my people will not act like animals." Okay, and for this is why he was terminated for, and his buddy. I'm going to show you a picture of his buddy here in just a second. All right, so this is what his buddy Jeremy Owens says. Laughing, laugh out loud. "Hey, that'll never happen." All right, so then it's getting ready to rain. So the next day or whatever, they're talking about the weather, just small talking. So this just lets you know that this was like their constant. This is in their constant frame of mind. I mean, even when they're doing something what I would call small talk, when they're even small talking about the weather, they're doing it and still bringing it back to their discrimination and their bigotry towards black people. Because he said, "Hey, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. We're probably not going to catch too many nigs." All right. And then the other guy replies, "Well, I hope we get a few, but, screw it if we don't." So just to show you, just in there, I mean, it's almost like it's their every waking thought or moment. At least that's how this article is portraying the situation. Now let's look at, okay, so this is the guy, this is the other guy, this is little buddy. Now as soon as the first guy that I showed you, as soon as he got fired, this little guy quit. And personally, he don't look like he could fight his way out of a wet paper bag, so he probably did his own self a favor, quitting. I mean, you can see this and I am totally stereotyping and generalizing myself in this statement I'm about to make, and I'm sure I'm going to probably catch some heat rounds for it. But just at first glance, this guy looks like he would run from his own shadow. All right? So he was probably bullied in high school, whatever the case may be, and that's why he put on a badge and said he's going to get a little payback and some retribution now. Because, if this guy was black, white, green, gray, grizzly has nothing to do with it. If he was to pull me over and give me a ticket, man, I would probably laugh. I'd probably laugh if he called me the N-word, because he don't look like he could do anything, It'd be like, really? That's the best you got? Anyway, let's moving on. No, I wouldn't laugh, and don't think y'all can do that. All right, don't get stupid. Okay, so moving on. I'm going to show you another clip here, and in this next clip, now this one is a video that I found on the internet as well. Not only are these guys racist and bigots and say a bunch of racist stuff, while working, while on the job, while police officers, but they're also part of a neo-Nazi group, all right, and they're leaders on the police force. Let's check this clip out real quick.
Is the epitome of, kind of small southern town almost like what you would see in My Cousin Vinny. I mean, that's the kind of place that Dothan is, and I'm not saying that in a negative way at all. I've been there. It's lovely, but it is a very small Alabama town. And as early as 1996, the police department started getting complaints from African Americans who had been arrested, and they said, look, I'm being charged with having drugs on me, having weapons on me. I had none of this stuff. I don't know where this came from. I don't know why these charges are even here. So 19 years ago, they start hearing these complaints, and they decide 2 years after that, in 1998, when you finally had a group of white police officers come forward and say, look, I've witnessed some officers here planting guns, weapons, knives, and drugs on African-American suspects. But here is where the story gets even worse, even for Alabama, because it's bad enough that they're planting these things on African-American suspects just to be able to arrest them. Many of these people are still in jail, even though these charges were completely untrue. But it turns out that all of the officers doing this are part of a group that the Southern Poverty Law Center has labeled as racial extremists. They were all neo-Confederates, borderline neo-Nazis, who believed that African Americans and Jewish people had lower IQs, were less, I guess, of humans than regular white people, according to these police officers. And these are the people running that police station there in Dothan. One of them goes on to become the Alabama Homeland Security chief. I mean, these people, we talk about what happened in Chicago, we talked about what happened in Baltimore, St. Louis, Alabama. This racism is persistent throughout almost all, there's nowhere that's immune to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. But this Dothan story is truly ugly because we have a police department that is being run by neo-Confederate racists, putting black people in jail for crimes that they did not commit. We know they did not commit them, and yet those people are still, to this day.
Okay, so this last guy is a police chief in a town in Georgia. Georgia, once again, man, what is going on down there? And he was fired for doing the same thing as the first two guys were doing, making some racial texts, but he also ordered the guy to get beat down. Let's see what the news clip has to say about this.
Foul language, racial slurs, and a shocking incentive that may have led to a violent beating. A Channel 2 Action News investigation exposes the threatening text messages that forced a local police chief off the job. Investigative reporter Aaron Diamond is here live after tracking down the target of those texts.
Aaron, when we got the tip about the police chief's text a few months ago, we figured there's no way it was true. And we're even more surprised once we worked our sources to identify and interview the target of those texts. The highly offensive language was one thing, but it was the takedown order and the beating that followed that put this on a whole nother level. At first, Grantville, Georgia, a city of fewer than 4,000 people, looks lost in time, but it's technology that took down the chief of police.
Oh my God.
The drama unfolded last month after a source gave us a series of text messages Chief Doug Jordan sent to some of his officers back in 2013. The first set started with this. Okay, Junebug saw Henry and his wife at Dollar General, shot him the bird and yelled, "blank you" at him. So, gloves off. First officer to take him down gets steak dinner. Then, blank that drug-pushing mother blank. And finally, we going to find that piece of blank. We'll get to who Henry is in just a minute, but first we asked around town and learned Junebug is Leon Buchanan. We found him and showed him the chief's texts.
They threatening somebody's life. Like they're making bets on me or something.
Buchanan did serve a year in prison on drug charges in 2008, but since getting out...
I changed my whole life. Went to school, got my CDLs.
You drug pusher?
No, sir.
Either way, just 2 days after the chief texted that takedown order...
That's when I end up calling the police on the police.
A frantic 911 call from Buchanan's hysterical cousin outside the family's home after now former Grantville police officer Demetrius Henry, the officer named in the first text, rolled up fast looking for Buchanan.
He just jumped out the car to my, didn't I tell you don't do respect, and just started hitting him and beating him in the car.
Once he hit me the first time in the eye, my cell phone flew over there.
A beatdown so bad, Buchanan ended up in the hospital. His family filed excessive force complaints against Henry, but an internal investigation cleared him. Meantime, we reached Chief Jordan at the same number the text came from.
You need to come see this.
He agreed to meet us in town, but canceled at the last minute.
We actually tried for weeks to get Jordan's side of all of this. When we drove up to his house outside Noonan, we saw him and his family outside in the yard. But by the time we got out of the truck, they'd scrambled in the house.
We couldn't chase the chief forever, so we showed the text to a stunned Grantville mayor, Jim Sells.
He may need an attorney.
We also showed him another series of texts from last August. After seeing an off-duty officer, Henry, in this unrelated Channel 2 Action News story, another Grantville officer texted, "Henry's on the news." The chief wrote back, "What's that about?" Then added, he probably beat the blank out of some N-word.
I mean, does this represent the values of this town of Grantville?
No, absolutely not.
And Sells' condemnation came quick.
Using that word goes way beyond that. That cuts right to the core.
For Buchanan, the chief's texts leave no doubt in his mind.
He don't need to be a chief. He don't need to be a cop, period, man.
It seems Mayor Sells agreed and suspended Chief Jordan, who resigned 2 days later. Still,
This is not going away, no. Whether you pursue it or not, this is not going away.
Okay, so man, I just really think that better hiring and screening practices would be a more proactive stance for all these law enforcement agencies and police departments to take. We need to modify and correct the hiring practices and the screening practices to prevent these racist cops from ever getting badges in the first place. Let me know your comments on this topic. What do you think it will take to prevent the racism in law enforcement and in the ranks of law enforcement? Go ahead and give me some comments below, and let's get some dialogue started about that. And if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to it and check out some of the other ones. Well, that's all for now, folks. I want you to know that myself and the entire Ben Group are always watching over you. So just let me know if there is ever anything that I can do to help you out in business or otherwise.